Welcome to the Green Grind Podcast, where we discuss real experience, real struggles, and real business. My name is Leroy Maines. I'm with Brilliant Porters Landscaping, and we have Corey Ballard of Perfect Cut Site Management, Ballard Innovative Products. As always, we have Kaz, who's the brains of this thing, getting it from our mouth to your ears and eyes. Just a friendly reminder that the Green Grind is sponsored by Jobber as well as Hustler. Thank you so much for your sponsorship to both of those. Today, Corey and I are talking with Sam Rankin. Sam is the president of Etch Outdoor, located in Ankeny, Iowa. Sam has been on our show before and actually was with Ankeny Lawn and Landscapes at that time, so we got quite a bit to discuss with him. So, Sam, thanks for coming back on the Green Grind. We're glad to have you back on our show today.
You bet. Enjoy it every time.
Yeah, Sam, appreciate you being in. Leroy, you tired over there, buddy? You don't have a lot of oomph.
I got all kinds of oomph.
Okay,
There's a lot to read here. We're starting to get all these sponsors, and we got people coming back. There's a lot going on in this
all right,
head
buddy.
here.
I was gonna snap. Maybe have to
No, I got to get it re-recorded here so we can re-record it, and I sound exciting every single
Awesome.
time. So
Yeah,
we
Sam,
lost an hour of sleep.
Yeah, we did.
We had
You got
snow.
plenty of sleep, buddy.
I was plowing snow. I'm wore out, man.
Yeah, we got a bunch of snow last week, and actually they were calling for like a dusting, and we got about 6 inches in our market. So
the nice wet heavy stuff
on
too.
a Saturday, which was nice, little revenue booster. But now, of course, we were getting started. I don't know about you guys, but we were starting to mulch, put down some pre-emergent, getting our landscape crews going. So now we're on hold probably for another week. And by the time you guys are listening to this, hopefully the grass is green and we're out there doing some work. But
we should be, yeah. So, Sam, welcome back. A lot has happened with your business since the last time we talked.
It's been an exciting last bit of 22 and then into 23. It's been moving and shaking. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep. I got more gray hair than I had.
Welcome to the club, buddy.
Well,
At least I've got it.
That's one thing Corey hasn't pointed out yet since you've been here.
I know Sam, so I've been kind of hard on him since he got here. So I mean,
pointed out every flaw he came in here
with. It's a rough group, and it's a Monday. I'm just wanting to be kind of an asshole today, but yeah, Sam, appreciate you being on. Why don't you just tell our listeners real quick, if they missed your first episode, a little bit about you, and your kind of how you got rolling in the business.
Yeah, Sam Rankin, Etch Outdoor Living. We were Ankeny Lawn and Landscapes up until June of 2022. Made the transition as we scaled more into design build, and at that time was pushing actually more and more out of the maintenance side of the business. And then I don't know if I got smarter or dumber. Everybody will have an opinion on this, but I really tried to push back into maintenance. It's a huge part of the business that I think a lot of people undervalue. It's mailbox money. It's whatever you want to call it. No, you can obviously make higher margin dollars on design build, but you can also lose it very, very quickly on a single job. So we've been crushing it. It's been a lot of fun. Some challenges. We had an acquisition go through, and we love the new name. It doesn't exactly encompass exactly what we were planning originally, but I think we're going to stick with it. We're trying to build a brand around it.
Yeah, we're going to get into that for sure. And Sam, you and I had some conversations back when you were Ankeny Lawn and Landscape, and we had talked a couple times about the name change, and that's something that at Perfect Cut we talked about probably even 15 or 20 years ago. Does the name resemble what we want to be, what we want to be known for? Does it encompass the type of services we offer? And you were really struggling with, Corey, what do I do with the name? And you were bouncing around at several different names, and I think your new name's awesome. Your new logos look good. You've done a great job of branding your company. How'd you land on Etch? Did you get some help with that, or that something that came to you?
I've had a number of people ask, and I sat and read through a thesaurus, like every single word I could find. Then I would go look up that word and look up 10 more. We settled on something. I wanted to be an adjective or an adverb because I wanted it to be something we did. So etch is to scribe, and our goal and our plan is to leave a lasting legacy on our people, on the properties we take care of and the projects we do. And so etch is larger than just us and the 40 people we have inside our walls, but it's beyond that. It's the families they take the paychecks home to. It's the clients that we're able to impact, or even just tenants at a HOA or a apartment complex. We wanted it to be something that was bigger than just us.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great. And what did you have so obviously you're developing the culture with Etch, and that's a big part of your thing. Did you have much of a culture with Ankeny Lawn and Landscapes? Was that part of it, or is this something that was brand new when you made that transition?
It was honestly, it was like everybody was sell work, do work, bill work, reinvest the money. We've now made a huge push, and I actually have one of the things we did is we put all of our team members, we put our core values right on our phone. So, for example, Our core values: positive can-do attitude, reliable and accountable, customer-centric, honest and ethical with integrity, and ambitious go-getters. We have stopped since last 2 weeks. We've made a very big push with our spring rush and hiring. Don't focus on experience. If you have a positive can-do attitude and you're an ambitious go-getter, there's no reason you can't pick up skills of maintenance. Design build takes a little bit longer, but there's no reason you can't be a great crew member. Even in the design build side, that you can't be fetching pavers, you can't be moving wheelbarrows or even learning some entry-level skills on a ditch witch.
Absolutely.
And so we've made an enormous push that we really don't care how skilled you are. If you're willing to work hard and you're willing to have a great attitude, we'll teach you everything. And we've always kind of said that, but never really put it into action. And so we started with our current team. Went to the crew leaders and the department managers and said, hey, all 5 of these, is it yes or no? And if they had some of them, they're like, well, I said, nope, it's a no. If you have to think about it, rationalize it to yourself, it's a no. And if they're 3+ or 2+, we're training them. If they have 1 or none, why were they here to begin with? And unfortunately, we've got a couple guys that are in the 3s that we're going to coach them up and we're going to pull it, straight in front of them and say, here's the deal. These are reasons why, we don't think you're here yet, but we want to train you and we want to improve you, to serve our clients better, to also just flat out be a better person. Yeah.
Awesome answer, Sam, because that 100% is what we do at Perfect Cut. We have our core values. We recite them at every meeting, every team meeting. We recite them at every strategy meeting. And then when we hire or when we have to terminate somebody, we always ask ourselves, do they have the 5 core values that we say are important? And again, if they have 3 of them, can we coach them up or can we not? And, and we talk about core values. We're doing kind of a employee of the year thing. We're doing really that. Do they encompass everything that our core values stand for when we do our spring kickoff meeting? And then we're also doing kind of like standout new person of the year as well. Because it's always tough when you do an employee of the year, employee of the month. I don't love those programs because there's several people that, man, I'm doing great here and I didn't win. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but we feel like we've got a good program to explain that. And then I really like what you said there as well. And I say this on this podcast, I've said it every time I give a speech, man, we hire for attitude, not skills. And we talk about that, Leroy, all the time when these guys put these ads on Facebook. Now looking for a mowing foreman, must have 5 years experience, must have this, and this. And I'm like, okay, so he's got 5 years experience. He's been at 4 different companies. He's got a terrible attitude. He thinks he's a know-it-all. You want that guy? Or I'll take a guy or gal that has all the core values, a great attitude, ability, and ambition, and we'll train him. Now, is it going to take longer to get him up to speed? Absolutely. But we're going to train them our way, and here's the other thing. We're probably going to retain them because that guy that's been at 4 companies in 5 years that knows how to mow grass or spray turf or maybe even landscape, hardscape, especially in the hardscape, man, you see a guy with 4 or 5 years of hardscape, you're like, oh, shit, we don't have to train this guy. So the learning curve is nice, but he comes in.
Might have to retrain him.
And he's cancer in your organization, and now nobody wants to work with him. And so I think you're onto something there that we've talked a lot about, is – man, that culture right now, I think more than ever, man, it's so crucial.
Well, I think, and we've talked about it a whole lot more too, and I think one of the things that I've noticed doing the green grind is as we have companies that are on that are bigger than mine, and the big companies, if you talk to the guys that own those companies, what they talk about is they don't talk about how they hire people. They don't talk about this. They talk about who they're hiring, what they're hiring for, that person, who they are, and then they talk about their company culture. And obviously, Sam, something changed with your organization to implement all this type of stuff. And what happened there, and we had that at our company as well too, where I'm like, these big guys are getting there by systems, by processes, by core values, by the way they hire people. We're not going to sustain who we are by just doing estimates and cutting grass and putting in some landscaping and hoping that things go well, And I think you reach a point in your organization where you're big enough and it comes to a head. And for us, it was just a complete shit show at one point. And it's like, whoa, we got to slow this truck down here a second. Exactly. It's what it was for us.
To a point that I struggled, and I was like, okay, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over. Mm-hmm. One of the examples, and not to get sidetracked, but it's with sidewalk snow removal. Everybody, the sidewalk guys didn't show up, won't show up, what have you. Yep. Well, now let's start investing in machines and start doing things that'll make them want to show up. Side point, but there's I guess you should say, you see it on Instagram, you see it in all these other places, and you're only seeing the snippets and the best parts when you're on social media.
Yep.
But you're around companies like Brilliant Borders and like Perfect Cut, where they do something different. And it's the fake it till you make it. It's the R&D, rob and duplicate, which is my favorite saying ever, that you see the guys that are having success, and it's not strictly about how much grass they cut, how many hardscape projects or landscape projects they're completing, but they're doing something different and they're impacting people. And when you start to get that through your head, I think a huge change takes place from the leadership side, and you start creating more leaders instead of just more followers.
Yeah, we talk a lot about people. Matt Bowman was on here, and he had a great podcast. And Leroy, I think you said, Matt, I don't think you mentioned sales once. It was all people.
Yeah, he talked about people, processes, how things got done.
People, processes. I mean, at the end of the day, I say this all the time, man, we're in the people business. The fact that we put in trees, cut grass, spray lawns, put in hardscapes, that's just the work we do. We're in the people business. And, and when people say there's nobody wants to work and everybody's lazy, and that's bullshit. That's not true. Now, is it challenging? Absolutely. But they're great companies find great people, and they find a way to recruit and retain, and you have to build that core value and that culture. And then you've got to implement it, and then you got to live it. As the owner, Sam's got to live it. Leroy, you got to live it. We got to live it. We can't put in a dress policy, dress code, and then show up in ripped jeans. You can't say that all trucks are clean and then have a dirty truck. You can't, you've got to live it as a leader. And then your manager's got to live it, and then that trickles down. You can't make these policies, and we struggled with that. I mean, at Perfect Cut, we put in policies, and I remember myself, I'm like, I can't wear jeans? And they're like, no. I'm like, oh, I'm the owner. Like, no, but we put in it's no jeans at Perfect Cut now. I'm like, I got to go buy some Lululemons.
You don't know what you're missing. You have no idea.
I got to go buy some. Sam's got on Lululemons. I was making fun of him. I'm not wearing Lululemons ever, but that's just the deal. That's a side point. But point is, as owners, guys, though, if you're going to build these up, you got to live them as well. And I've talked about when, Matt's out there taking out the trash, whatever it looks like, you've got to live that as an owner, whether you got 20 guys, 50 guys, or 100 or 2. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. So, Sam, you have acquired another company since the last time we talked to you. What was the goal behind that? I don't know if you can tell us the company you acquired and what size and those types of things. Could you talk to us a little bit about that and why you did that?
Absolutely. So we acquired a company, Outdoor Advantage. It was a very different transaction in the sense that the property owner, so it was all commercial base, 100% commercial. The property owner was also the property manager, owns the property management company, and then a wholly owned subsidiary of the lawn care landscape, or no landscape, I guess, the maintenance company, rather. It about 1.35, so just a good sized company. It was a big jump for us, but our big reason behind it was a buy it versus build it equation. Mm-hmm. We knew with where the economy was likely pushing, don't want to admit that it's ever a recession, and they changed the definition of that a couple times, I think. But we saw that things were possibly going to be slowing down. We knew that landscapes were probably not going to be as, it got to order taking basically, where they were telling you what they wanted, and it was just put it in, don't really care the price. We knew that wasn't going to be the case moving forward, and so we were trying to build a sustainable base. The great companies in our industry almost always are starting off with a huge base of maintenance, and then kind of as that pie or as the food pyramid goes up, then it's a little bit less in maybe commercial install or simpler landscapes, and then they have the tippy top with either trees or fert and weed control and some different high margin services. We noticed that we didn't quite have that base, and it was something that we really had to build in order to just a simple cash flowing business is the big goal. So. A lot of snow, something that we typically looked at as we have to do snow, and instead, transitioning our mindset to being it's a great opportunity to build cash balances instead of just have 4 or 5 burn months in a row. Yeah,
the snow can be really good done right. When you looked at that, Sam, you and I actually talked about that acquisition as well a little bit, and I think it makes sense. You mentioned that residual cash flow is nice, even though maybe the margins are a little bit less, but it does build a nice base there. When you looked at that business, I think it's good for our listeners too, because there's a lot of small mergers and acquisitions going on right now, and there's a lot of people getting out of the business. Unfortunately, obviously, there's new guys getting in every day as well. But What were the things that you considered other than the maintenance and the cash flow? I mean, did you look at the people and think, okay, because when we look at a small merger, we're always thinking, I don't really care about the assets. The equipment can be bought, whether we like it or don't like the equipment. You know, that's one thing. But we're always looking at the people before the accounts. Like, the accounts are nice, right? Are they priced right? Are they going to be profitable? But are we going to be able to gain some key team members that we think help us get to the next level?
Without a doubt. I mean, the acquisition came through with 10 team members. There was a hand. I think there was maybe 3 that right away we knew that weren't the right fit culture-wise. It's when we started to kind of put the culture piece in place. They liked working for the previous company, and I flat out said, hey, if you want to go back over there, I'll sign something, whatever, that says, there's a 90-day, they can't go back and work for the other company. And I said, hey, you know what? I care about you. It's not that, I want bad for you, but if you want to go back and work there, great. You know what? That's fine. We'll make sure you have a place to work. But there were a good, the 5 that we have left are the guys that we absolutely had to keep, and were huge. In this case, there was a little bit more attention paid to the accounts because they're fully guaranteed for 6 years. As long as we perform, there's small annual escalation in them. But it was a little bit more, honestly, in this scenario. It was about the accounts and the guarantees.
Yeah, that one made sense because I know the account, I know the business that you bought, and I understand the accounts, and it makes sense. So you get some guarantee in there that you're not going to. Typically, when you buy a company, you get all these accounts, and then maybe they're doing business with Joe, and Joe owns it, and now you lose 20, 30% of the accounts, where this one was a little bit more built-in guarantee, which I think reduces the risk, obviously. But like you'd mentioned, it's the people, and sometimes you lose people. We've done that with acquisitions, and sometimes we lose people that we thought we'd keep, and sometimes we lose them just because now there's going to be some accountability, right? There's some core values that maybe they just don't want to follow. Hey, at the old company, we didn't have to work Fridays, or we drank beer, and they really kind of just did what we wanted. And well, that doesn't work here. And then so you lose some of those people, and that's just unfortunately part of the deal. But if you keep the A players, that's how you want to do it.
Absolutely, and that we've never, last time we were on this podcast, it was in the middle of the crappy hiring times and the labor shortage and all that good stuff. And we've been very, very lucky, but we've also worked very hard on it. That we have 10 to 15 interviews a week, and it's, we say no an awful lot, but even when we're fully staffed, same thing as probably both of you guys, that you're still interviewing to try to find that one diamond in the rough and that one key guy that you'll find a place for him. You might not be doing what you want to do, but I'm going to find a place where I'm going to get you on board, and we're going to start getting you used to the way we do things. And so, are we a little short? Yeah, we're I don't know. We probably need to hire 25% of our total workforce still. And thankfully, I guess we're not doing it this week because we got 6 or 8 inches of snow sitting on the ground. But it's a huge growth, and it's a jump. Took a lot of faith in our team, a lot of prayers, and I think it's going to pay off really, really well. It's been a great end of the snow year. So did
you talk to your current team before you made the purchase? Did you sit your team down and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking, here's why it makes sense for our company, and here's how I think it integrates, and why I think it's going to help potentially offer opportunity and growth? And so did you talk to your team before you made the decision?
Yes, I talked to our office manager, Jenna, and Cole, who's our landscape production manager. I talked to both of them, and even though it didn't directly involve Cole, he was the first or second guy that I ever brought on, first guy full-time, actually. And he's seen the business from where it was when he was actually coming home from Iowa State, and we were trimming after class. We'd go back up at 7, 8 o'clock when it got dark. So he's a key sounding board person for me. And then also Jenna, who's our office manager. She has, she's been phenomenal. She gets it. She doesn't come clouded with typical landscape industry judgment. Mm-hmm. It's a fresh perspective. She asks why, and if I can't explain, then it probably shouldn't do it that way. But she's been a huge resource, and it was getting her on board because she was going to be taking on a heck of a lot more and managing more HR, more accounts receivable, more payables, and all of that good stuff. So she's been huge, and it was getting their, I don't want to say getting their blessing, because I did kind of say, hey, I think this is a good idea. Would you be behind me and support it? Instead of, I don't think they quite have all of the information to really say yes or no. And it's one of those where you kind of have to guide them to a decision, but nobody was completely adverse to it. And so it made sense.
Yeah. What were some of after looking back on it, were there things that you did not anticipate with the purchase of this that you wish you would have?
Where do we start? There was just some nuanced differences. Like one of the things that I love for their people was they guaranteed everybody 40 hours a week, all winter long. And the first week I was there, I kind of observed. I didn't come in. I didn't make big changes on day one, but they had guys, a 2 or 3 man crew driving around checking snow stakes for 6 hours a day. There was 8 inches, 10 inches plus of snow on the ground. You knew where the curbs were. They did not need to reset snow stakes. There was a lot of just wasted time that they said they weren't very good at the business, but truth be told, I think there was just a lot of waste. It ended up as a huge benefit for us, but there were so many, I don't want to call them little things, but so many little things that they did not do right that really, came to the bigger picture. There wasn't a ton, specifically that I didn't know about. The one thing that I kind of regret, I guess, was I didn't push harder on all their snow contracts were 6-month seasonals. We took over effective January 9th, but we received all the cash flow from the January 1st invoicing. And I pushed a little bit on proration of the snow contracts because I said, hey, here's the deal. We're going to come in and we're going to absorb 80% of the cost. And I didn't push hard enough on that, and I did end up giving in on it. We did instead move some dates on, they gave me 2 free months of lease on the building that we were in, and we pushed the first payment back 45 days. So there was, I guess a different sort of give, but I do wish I would have pushed a little bit harder on that. It's one of those that if you look over the life of the 6 years, is it going to be that big of a deal? Probably not, but at the time and where we're at and where we've come for the last 2 months now, it would have been nice to have a little bit of additional cash flow.
Right. Sure. Well, sometimes you got to make some concessions, and as long as there's a little give and take there, and you just gotta be flexible there. And I know you moved into their I think it's their facility, but so you moved in. So part of that acquisition, I had 2 questions here. First off, before we get into that, did you have somebody that helped you? A mentor, CPA? Did you have somebody on your end helping you make sure this was financially made sense, structurally made sense, looking at assets, are they worth what they're asking? Did you have somebody helping you with that entire transaction? Yeah,
a lot of the due diligence I did myself.
That's scary.
It is.
Just give me go ahead. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're fine. A lot of the due diligence I did myself when it came to like equipment.
Right.
It's auction value, or honestly, it's half price, whatever they're saying on Facebook, if you want to be frank, because everybody wants way too much. So started there. The big person that I got on board was my banker. I had him sit down as if he was going to finance the deal, and he came to a number that was almost exactly double what we paid. When he had a number that he would finance us up to X, it made me a heck of a lot more comfortable.
Sure,
because he sees a lot more value in it, honestly, than I even did. He saw, okay, at the end of the day, after 6 years, you guys go your separate ways. Then you bought assets and you broke even, or you cash flowed on the accounts, and so that part was huge. We brought in our CPA. He at the purchase price that we had agreed to, he was all on board. And then obviously we had an attorney to write everything up, and this thing got blue lined and red lined, and
they get weird for a while.
It was over lawyered as it could ever be, but it also it's there to protect us, to protect them, to protect us, and it's now fair and outlined expectations. And so I think it's important to be thorough with it. Did we need to spend over $10,000 with attorney fees? Probably not, but
yeah, but it protects you. We had Marvin on a couple weeks ago, and he specializes in mergers and acquisitions, and and he talked a lot about helping companies do that. Because what happens sometimes, guys, and I don't know if you were there, Sam, but sometimes you get, and I've been there, when we bought an erosion control company in 2008, 2009, somewhere in there, went right into the recession, and it was a real recession under every definition. we just kind of got emotionally, and we got too much emotion, and I was in love with the idea. And even when there were some red flags, I still was in love with the idea. Just and a little bit of ego and pride, like, man, this is going to make us, we're going to be bigger, and we're going to get these 35 people, and now we're not going to subcontract this erosion control and SWIP stuff out. And so, to your point, man, it's really good to get some people around you, bankers, mentors, friends, a CPA, a lawyer that is not emotionally connected to the transaction, that can just look purely at the numbers. They have no connection to it. Because what happens is, Sam, you fall in love with this, man, we're going to add over $1 million in revenue, and we're going to be bigger and better. And then you sometimes you overlook all the, oh shit, what about this, what about that, all the red flags. And so I just encourage anybody listening, if you're looking at a small buy or a big buy, there's guys out there that can help you with it, but get some people in your corner that are not emotionally connected to it. Because, I remember, and I think I mentioned this when we were talking to Marvin a few weeks ago, like 2 weeks before closing, Matt and I both said, I don't think this is the right deal, but we were just so emotionally, we were like in love, we were just connected and in love with this idea, and we just couldn't get away.
Well, I think it happens a lot, we bought a smaller company, and I was looking at, first of all, the guy that we're getting with the things, and then second of all, the accounts that we're getting. These accounts are going to be awesome, and we don't have one of those accounts today.
Right.
It's just the way that it works out. Now, obviously, your deal is better, but I'm sure too, Sam, you said earlier, as long as we perform, we get to keep these for 6 years. I'm sure there's something written in these contracts with the lawyers. What is your definition of how we perform? And those are the types of things that I think a lot of people overlook. As long as we perform, and I would be thinking, oh, we'll perform. We'll do well.
Yeah.
My performance versus your performance may be two separate things, especially when I just sold you a $3 million company. Yes. There's a lot of different things, and so that's why the lawyers typically need to be involved, I guess. But they always make too much money. So with this thing, and you've got this acquisition now, where are you taking your company? Because I believe you've hired a new marketing company as well too since the last time we were on here.
Yep.
So what's your goal of this thing? Obviously you were doing pools, you're doing some big landscape project, design build, and now you've purchased this thing where you're back to cutting more grass and maintenance again. So jack of all trades here. Are we going to scoop some poop too, or where are we headed here?
Pest control, bring it all on board. No, we actually cut pest control this year. We want to really stay focused on what we're going to be really good at: high-end design, build landscapes, and then commercial maintenance. Which unfortunately those two don't pair very well. I always picture our industry is 4 quadrants: residential and commercial, design, build, and maintenance, and so they don't pair very well. But that's where we found success so far. The residential design build side. We ran into a number of issues with pool guys. They wouldn't show up when they said they're going to show up. It was just not, they didn't listen to the way that we wanted it done. And unfortunately, as a landscaper, you're the last guy in there, and it impacts you the most because now you're adding drains and your grade does not match up, and you're putting in steps and things that the client didn't want, costs that you didn't predict. And so we've breaking into pools this year. We're actually going to specialize, I think, in more like plunge pool or spool, spa pool kind of combos. I don't ever want to be the big pool guy. We're going to probably do somewhere 6 to 8 this year. But the backyards we're doing, guys can come in and do a pool with concrete around for, I don't know, $110,000 here in our town, and the jobs that we have booked so far, they're all over 200. We're not competing on the commodity pools, as I call it.
Right.
There's just not enough room in those to make any money, and it's not the things that get me excited. It's not an etch project. Etch carries a little bit of weight to it, and so making sure those projects align with who we are and what we want to do. In terms of true size, I don't have I have 5-year and 10-year goals. In 5 years, end of 27, we want to be a $10 million company. It's a stretch goal for sure, but I think we could do it a year early. I think we have the right people on board to do it. I don't have there's as we grow. One of your sayings is top line profanity.
Yeah, top line vanity,
sanity.
bottom line sanity,
Yeah.
which Matt stole from a guy who I stole and I've used quite a bit.
Yeah.
But it's that top line vanity, bottom line sanity, which is that top line looks fun and sexy, but at the end of the day, are you making any money?
Exactly. And so I want to get to a point where we're impacting a number of lives with our team. We're impacting clients in a very positive way. And as long as we can create systems to not just have it be an absolute shit show. I don't know. Do you swear on your podcast?
Corey does
all the time.
I don't want it to be an absolute shit show where you're just running around and it's utter chaos every single day.
Yeah.
There's always going to be little problems, but if you have a systematic approach to where the account manager is always in communication with the client, and your crew leads or a field supervisor is managing any field and production related problems, where you can create a systematic approach to provide a high level service that is simplified. Until we find that place where it's like, all right, we've lost it. Either we've got to reorganize and make it structured again, or you know what, let's come a step back. That's a comfort zone, and now let's just try to be really, really good at be an $8 million company, whatever that is. I don't think it truly matters what quote size you are.
Yeah, I like that you have a goal though, and I like that you call it a stretch goal. We have goals at Perfect Cut. I mean, we always have goals, and we're very transparent about them. Like, who do we want to be? What's we call it this hairy, audacious goal. Who do we think we can be? What's it going to take to get there? Is it realistic? And then, but more importantly, at what margin? So we want to be a $30 million company, but we want to be at no less than 12% net or 15%, whatever that number is. But you just can't get too in love with that. We want to be a $10 million company. And as I've said many times, we did $10 million and lost money. So we were a $10 million company, and we were stretched out. We just were sloppy, right? We thought, how do you not make money at 10 million? Well, I can tell you how you don't make money.
You told me this. I think it was last time I was on the podcast, actually, that you were paying insurance on a vehicle you didn't own.
Well, more than a vehicle. We had skid loaders insured we didn't own, wheel loaders, trucks that we no longer had. We had cell phones that we were paying for that guys didn't even work for us. We were sloppy, right? You're doing $10 million. We had too much work, not enough infrastructure, not enough back-end office support. And we had to take a deep dive, and I think we had over 30 pieces of equipment insured we didn't even own.
We found one, and I was like, what? And I just the light bulb went on of when you were saying that. I'm like, man, I'm such an idiot.
Well, we sell something, and we forget to take it off the asset list. It's still insured. I mean, we just were sloppy. Again, cell phones. There was a lot gas cards floating around with people that didn't work for us anymore.
And I think, too, a lot of that, and I think everybody's been there, that at least gets to a certain level of size of company. And I think that we get so busy with the shit show, as we like to call it, that we just don't think about those things. We just sold a vehicle. By the time we run back inside to email our insurance guy, 3 things have happened that are a disaster, and we forgot all about it. And you get to that point, and all of a sudden, and you don't make any money because it's a shit show, you know. And you get to the point where you said, you get to that breaking point, and it's like, we can't do this any longer. We've got something here, but we've got to continue to do something. We've got to get some policies. We've got to get some procedures down. And if you guys are running day to day and just running a shit show,
putting out fires,
yeah, man, there's something wrong. It should not be that way. And I can promise you, if you slow down and look at it, you'll be far more profitable than just trying to grind your way through it.
There's a book, and I've only read the first 2 pages, so I don't know the whole concept of the book, but it's Checklist Manifesto. And it's about having a checklist, same way with pilot, flaps, spray. I don't know them all because I can't fly a plane, but same way when now we sell a vehicle, it's email this person this document, email that person that document, and go through each thing, check the box, file it, and make sure that every piece of that gets done. And if something, either doesn't get done or there's a missing step on there, we know we can change this process now. But having a standard operating procedure, and I used to think it was the dumbest thing ever to have a big old book of 900 processes of going to pick up materials from a supplier and, accounting things. But as you grow, you're no longer able to do it all yourself. You're no longer to watch over everything yourself. You've got to have some trust in people. And if you have a guide, they can do it. It's like an old MapQuest directions. You can follow. Turn right here, turn left there.
We have guides for everything, including all the way down to when somebody's terminated. Did we get uniforms back? Do they have any devices, cell phone, laptop, iPad, keys? I mean, we have checklists for everything. We have how to do things. I mean, literally sit down at your desk, turn your computer on, put your I mean, we've built, now it's taken us a long time to do it, but we've built processes for every aspect in our company, and we had to. And some of them seem a little bit redundant and kind of crazy to me. I'm like, geez, that seems like literally sit down at your desk. But log
But
in.
you know what happens with those things. We were discussing this morning in our management team meeting. Is we just did 6.5 inches of wet, heavy snow. Everybody showed up. It went as smooth as it could. We didn't tear anything up. We didn't break anything. Every piece of equipment worked because we have a pre-checklist, we have a post-checklist, and we follow those things. And when you follow those things, and when you're planning those things, your business goes off the way it typically should. It's so much easier.
You got to build those systems in place, and as you grow, Sam, you'll find this out, and as you grow, especially with you're growing quickly, and we did that, and Leroy's growing his business as well. You're gonna constantly be changing and pivoting. We're at Perfect Cut today. We are every Tuesday we have our meeting. We're still changing. We're talking about what are we best at, what clients make the most sense, which clients are not working for us, and they might even be large clients, but do they fit our business model? Do we have a partnership with that client? And some of them are even profitable. It doesn't matter are they profitable or not profitable. Do we have a great relationship with them? Do they fit our business model? Do they, is it a partnership? Do they respect our services? Do we respect them? Does it fit into our route logistics? Does it make sense? Do we feel like this is a long-term client? So we're constantly changing our business model. I think people on the outside are like, you guys got it all together. We don't. We're still constantly changing.
It's fine. I was just going to mention, we're still a shit show, just so everybody listening is aware. We're a shit show a lot of times still. We're not perfect.
You're constantly changing and learning and saying, okay. And here's the thing I always say. If you fuck something up, you have a meeting with your team, say, hey, guys, we did this project, and we screwed up. When we were doing a lot of high-end residentials, we would look at $100,000, $200,000 install jobs, and we weren't even profitable. I'm like, how do you do a $200,000 install and not make any money? Well, I can tell you how. We made 40 extra trips. We did a bunch of freebies because the wife wanted to move 16 plants, and we're going to add a little more to the patio. And oh yeah, but it's we'll make money. And then we'd get done, we'd do a washout, and we're like, how do you do a $200,000 project and make pennies? Well, because we didn't manage the project really well, but we fall in love with hey, we're doing it for the Jones. It's a great location, and everyone's going to see us there.
And it's $200,000.
It's $200,000. How can you lose money on a $200,000 job? Yeah. Well, if it costs you $202 to do it, that's how.
I learned that
wow,
that's good.
Dropping all kinds of great advice here today, folks.
But being 10% off on a $2,000 job is $200. Being 10% off on a $200,000 is $20,000. That's why I say it can go wrong very, very quickly.
Yeah.
That 10% can be a lot of money depending on the scale of the project. So it's not quite as insightful as the 202 versus 200.
Yeah, that was.
But I just think you got guys. I hear it all the time. Man, I sold the biggest job we've ever sold, and I'm like, congratulations. Now, how are you going to execute? Is it priced right? Well, I mean, it's a $140,000 job. I'm like, I heard you. Sounds great. How? Is it bid properly? Do you have the right man hours?
Yeah, well, and our sales guy just sold the highest job he's ever sold here 2 weeks ago, and we celebrated it for 15 minutes. And it's like, okay, how are we going to execute this thing? Is it going to be profitable for us? What are we going to do to make it profitable?
I remember the first big job we ever sold commercial. We sold the Ankeny Walmart, $100,000 install. We celebrated. We drank beer. We're like, oh my God, we're the biggest company in the country.
Cost $102 to put it in.
Listen to this. So the plant material got delivered on a Friday.
I've read this story.
They put it on the asphalt, the new asphalt. Nobody watered it. We showed up Monday. Every plant and tree was dead. Dead. I mean, we lost money on the job. I mean, we celebrated and forgot to execute. I mean, that's what happens. Yeah. We fell in love with this $100,000 job, and then apparently if you set plants when it's 95 degrees out on asphalt, they don't live very well.
Not without water, no.
It's always the next step. Like the salesperson sold it, great. So now how do we put together your one pager so then you can meet with production and you can set down everything step by step? Were the pavers ordered? Because now that can be 3 to 4 months, and those have to be ordered immediately. Okay, great. Now plants, are you going to Landscape Hub? Are you going to go to a local supplier? How are those coming? And we get so caught up in the vanity of I sold this big job, and yes, it's going to make our top line look even better this year. But if you don't go through the next steps and you don't continue to follow the procedures and the processes that you put in place for a reason, then exactly, it's going to be very easy to lose money very, very quickly. And you do something stupid like, asphalt's black and that black pavement gets
hot. It gets a little warm.
Well, Matt is really good at that. We sell a new project, and we've got some big wins lately at Perfect Cut on some maintenance accounts. And the first thing he says is, all right, so we talk about every week at our meeting, customer highlights and employee highlights. And so, hey, we got customer X, Y, and Z. And then it's immediately, okay, have we got it to production? Have we had a team meeting? What materials need to be allocated, what team members need to be allocated, what's the game plan? Is the contract in? Do we understand scope of services? When do we start? What's the expectations? We go through the whole thing. So our celebrations today are much shorter. It's now how do we execute and fulfill what we just promised that client, So you've got to do all the work, because I think sometimes we just fall in love with this. We got the biggest project ever. Fantastic. Now, how are we going to perform and get that margin? Because you got to make money. Everybody's talking about knowing your numbers, but you got to make money, guys. If we're not going to make money, we got to do something different.
Go to work for somebody else. Go to
Sam,
work for
I didn't
Etch.
let you answer this. So as part of your acquisition, you took over their facility, which is a great facility, great location. Did you buy that? Are you leasing that? Are you planning on staying there?
Yeah, so we about 12,500 square feet. It's got 2 offices upstairs and then a conference room downstairs. And you giving me a hard time about.
You gonna drywall, or are we on a budget?
No.
Oh, I love the particle board.
It's beautiful. It's eclectic. It's a good vibe. Really makes people.
This is
work
lean
hard.
business operations.
So we are there. We're actually in the process of building our facility. So back to the issue with that is there's about give or take 15 parking spaces. That includes vehicles that are parked outside, any trailers, and all of our team members. We've outgrown it already,
Sure.
but it was the first facility that we've ever been in. We did 2.25 last year and didn't fix a single mower or skid loader or anything unless it broke down. And so we're actually going through all of our mowers top to bottom. And one of the guys who came over from Outdoor Advantage was like, this. I'm like, oh yeah, that's no, we'd never touch that because we just didn't have a place to do it.
Right.
So we're there, hoping to be in our new facility in October-ish.
So you're building a new building?
Yes. So we're building.
Local?
We're actually in Huxley. So
Nice.
it's about 20 minutes north of where we're at now. We'll be, it's 4 acres, so we have the outdoor storage space, we have yard space. It will be a little bit smaller building. They will have drywall on the walls, I'm hearing.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes.
Paint. Getting paint in this one?
Well, we're still working on the paint. Yes.
Budget.
We're going to get everything painted up. We're going to make it look nice. It's a 2-floor office space, 30 by 60, 2 floors, and so it's large. I'm hoping we don't outgrow it, but probably will eventually.
Sure. But you got 4 acres, so you've got the ability to add,
Exactly.
which is nice.
Exactly.
If you didn't get yourself into a spot which I've done, I remember when we bought the Perfect Cut building in 2000, we're like, man, we're never going to outgrow this thing. About a year later, we're like, where the fuck are we going to park our trucks? Luckily we bought some adjacent facilities and made it work, but we're in 3 spots just in Des Moines. Luckily they're all close, but it's not ideal.
No.
Being under one roof would have been a much better operation.
We wanted to really find something that, it's expensive, but I wanted to build a forever home right away. I didn't want to continue to piecemeal something together and then have to sell a property, hope another good one came for sale, and buy this one and then move. And I wanted to build one facility. There's another company local that they're in Ankeny, but also have a satellite facility out west.
Yep.
That could make a lot of sense down the line. And if that's the case, then we'll do something like that. But I didn't want to have a facility that we were going to outgrow in 3 to 5 years, and then you're back to square one effectively.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, because Leroy's been looking. You thought he had a building bought, and then it fell through, and then now you're working on another one.
Yeah.
I think would be a great one. You just don't have it quite figured out.
Yeah, it's just
yet.
not quite bought yet. Yeah, the first one it would have been phenomenal, 21,000 square feet, but I think it was just going to cost way too much to redo. It was old. That all the electrical was going to have to be new. It wasn't sprinklered, so there was going to be quite a bit of cost in that thing. But Sam, one of the things that since the last time I believe you've been in here is you've hired a marketing company to help your company.
We had them on too, so we know who it is.
Yeah,
so we know your secrets.
Yeah, we were just talking with Tony here last week, actually. Did you have them as Ankeny Lawn and Landscape, or did you hire them on as Etch? And how have they performed for you? What would have been some advantages, and have you seen success with what they've done for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We brought them on board about 14 months ago, give or take, and one of their big things, they only work with 7-figure companies. So I lied through my teeth and I said, "Oh, we're $1 million company."
We're telling.
Yeah, no, we weren't. And now it's funny we look back on it, but they grew us from a $900,000 company to a $2.2 million company in 1 year. They were phenomenal to work with. They have been and consistently continue to perform. The way I actually found them was a local company actually uses them,
Yep.
A large local company, and they pissed me off enough times that I decided, I'm like, oh, well, if it works for them, we'll try them too. And they've been great. There's many days in the spring. We do a lot of residential fert and weed control.
Yep.
And there's days when we have 30 plus proposals to get sent. I mean,
Nice.
they're just hammering them out the door, and we try to make sure it's an individualized approach, and it's a personable. They get a phone call, and it's not just like a blanket easy, like same thing now. People are doing those automatic quotes online, which I get is similar to kind of Amazon Prime, where you just punch in your information, you get a price, and you buy. But that's not the brand that we want to be.
Right. It's just too transactional.
Yes, and it doesn't. It's not relationships, and so it's very easy to fire the company that you've never actually met. You've just seen their tech roll around their yard and a sign in the front yard.
Yep.
I wanted to create something where it's really hard to fire somebody you know, like, and trust.
Yep, 100%.
If you've built a relationship, it's they're going to eat that price increase more often. They're going to understand, and they're going to feel what you're going through. So, no, Lawnline. This company, I've actually received a number of phone calls from other guys who are like, man, the website looks good. And I'm like, hire them. It's expensive.
Yeah. Leroy's on with them now. You signed up a couple months ago.
First part of the year, yeah.
Yeah, and they do a great job. And I see your stuff. I see both of your guys' stuff, and it makes sense. And my question is always, what did you feel like you couldn't do that in house, at least at a high level?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Makes sense.
I knew what I was good at, and we're like, for example, we're pushing to social media, but I have zero part of it. Our office admin does all of it. She does all the TikToks and Instagrams. That's where people make fun of my short pants. They're good look.
Can you get a new microphone?
Yeah, can we make fun of the microphone while we're here? If we're going to make fun of stuff, let's just rip the microphone apart, please.
Get one of those. They got wireless microphones now, and then you
don't have to hold the little thing like do.
See, but
it looks like is that a Lucky Rabbit's foot?
No. Well, the issue is that when you stick it on, it's a lapel mic, goes on your lapel, but it doesn't actually catch the sound. And the trouble is, there's obviously people working in the shop that are doing things that you got to hold it really close to your mouth.
I know how microphones work, I think. But I do like what you're doing. You're doing a lot of stuff on social, and I do think using a marketing company. We've talked a lot about that to our guys, whether you're a small company or not. If you're not ready for a marketing company, we totally understand. But man, there's still a lot of ability to make content, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, get before and afters. Get that phone to ring, but then you also have to have a system in place that when that phone does ring, and I like what you said, if you just go online, you type in your address and it shoots you a quote, your lawn app's $47, and they sign up with you. If you get a customer easy, you lose them easy. They're not doing business with Etch or Brilliant Borders or Perfect Cut. The next time they get a deal in the mail or a freebie or a True Green deal, one app free, they're gone. And so if you can build, again, trust, relationship, partnership, where they feel like we know and we like who we use. When they get that flyer in the mail from any of the companies in Des Moines that are really pounding the lawn programs for weed control, they're likely going to stay with you.
Yep. And it's the big thing. I'm a finance guy by trade. I went to Iowa State for finance, and I love the numbers aspect of it. And so when they report, like, they were flabbergasted. It was $12.74 a lead, and they're like, we've never seen it this cheap. There's that other player in the local market that they're spending over triple that for just a lead, and then we could back into, okay, for a FERT lead we're about $12.75 and we're converting at 40%, and we could back into literally, I need to spend this much money to be at this number of clients by this date, and being able to calculate the growth instead of just spend money aimlessly. That's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I love it. That's how we do it at Ballard. Kaz knows the numbers, and we know what our ROI is on every single ad. We spend X, we know what our customer acquisition costs are. We know if we spend this, we get this. And then you can decide where do you put your money. And then, if I'm going to grow, I can it's not just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
We were talking about,
we've done.
It's another thing we were talking about this morning, because we're going to do a print ad to target just our concrete and only our concrete. And, we got a specific phone number for it, so we know exactly how many it's bringing in. And before it used to be, well, how'd you hear about us? Oh, your ad. Okay, you need to circle the ad thing and off you go. Which ad was it? Was it the Facebook ad? Was it the Instagram ad? Was it the print ad? Was it the ad at the baseball field? What ad was that? And when you don't know those types of things, it's so difficult to continue to spend money on those. So your marketing budget, you start marketing and you pay money, and then all of a sudden you don't know what it's going to. Well, we're busy, so we'll pull all of that, and then you start throwing shit at the wall again, when you're not busy in late July, and you're paying $40 a Google ad to get on there, and it's just a never-ending cycle.
I don't know if impress is even the right word, but our company phone line 735-3338, and Tony's like, yeah, but we're going to put a different phone number on
Yeah,
your
no
Google
phone
My
number
Business."
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have like 13 phone numbers now.
Right.
And I'm like, duh. And he's like, no, because people are just going to go back to Google My Business, or they're going to have a phone number saved and they're going to call that one. It does not matter. People don't memorize phone numbers anymore.
We don't even have, I mean, we talked about that. We don't have phone numbers on our trucks anymore. I don't think you do. I mean, it's just changed. It's a branding thing. So the phone number doesn't matter, but that's the only way you can get the analytics so you can see what's working. Where's it coming from? And am I spending my dollars the way I want to spend them? And then where do I want to put more dollars? If this one's working better and you want to grow the
Yeah, crank it
residential
up.
weed control and FERT program, I know if I spend X at $12.75 a customer, we can gain. If we want to add 250 customers, here's the number.
Yep.
And then do we need another applicator? What's that look like? Do we need another truck? And you can plan for growth instead of just, we'll just see if the phone rings and see what happens. And then, but you got to convert. You got to be able to go out there. And that was one of the things I asked Tony is like, do you make sure that, people on the back end are prepared to get 30 phone calls a day? Do they have the admin support? Do they have somebody that can do estimates timely? What's the game plan? Because then, well, your guys' program doesn't work for me. No, it does. You just don't have you guys aren't converting.
And to his point, when you go from 900,000 to 2.2 million in less than 18 months, you better be ready. And to his point, I mean, they know what they're doing. Obviously, by talking to him last time and your numbers, they clearly know what they're doing.
They could run you right out of business.
Right. Well, that's just
Quickly.
it.
I mean,
easily.
You're
Yeah.
spending, I don't even know what their fees are anymore, but they can run
I thought
you
you were
right
a numbers guy.
Well, I know we'll probably spend about 6 figures with them this year.
Right.
And I am totally okay with it because we budgeted for it. We know where the dollars and when the dollars are going to be spent. But they will make the phone ring so much that you cannot handle it, which is scary because you got to be prepared, or otherwise you're going to create the name for yourself so that you do not answer the phone and you have trouble getting back. We've gotten a bad review from not getting back to somebody fast enough. And
It happens.
the FERT and weed control, yes, it's relationship, but it's also order taking in the sense that the first one back to, they probably sent out 3 or 4 estimates requests. It's not just one. And so if you're the first one back, they're signing, done, you're on board, and then you can really push the relational aspect. But if you don't get back to them right away, say thanks, but no thanks, because you're going to waste your time measuring out their lawn and sending a bid.
I said that when we were in the residential game so many times. The first person that shows up, when somebody's got a lawn that their turf looks bad, they've got weeds, dandelions, whatever, they probably called 3 people back in the old days, phone book, or jumped on Google. The first guy that shows up and is professional in a nice vehicle, reputable company, is probably going to get the win. I mean, it just is. They're not worried whether it's $47 or $49.50 or $52. They got dandelions. They want it taken care of. So the first guy back to them, most of the time, is going to get the conversion.
Yeah, especially when they're pissed off, 100%.
Now on
get that.
design build, a totally different aspect of relationship and trust, and showing them your portfolio and different types of things. Sam, just on that a little bit, because again, you have 2 aspects here. I assume, are you going to break your company up into kind of divisions where you've probably got some production managers, account managers, because you're doing 2 totally different animals. When you're doing $200,000 installs, that's different than cutting grass.
Sure is.
And then you've got your FERT and weed control side, irrigation service as well, I assume. Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got all the aspects, which I've been down that road, and you got to be careful. So do you have those broken up into quadrants or leadership teams?
Yeah, so we're implementing, and I guess we're live. We'll start our first billing April 1st with Aspire. Big old software that I don't even know.
We use it.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wrote down software. What software are you using?
Yeah,
I knew
so
you were
Switched
looking.
from Service Autopilot to Aspire. When Heartland bought us. So yeah.
Oh, so we use Service Autopilot, and we still have it, but it was Service Autopilot on maintenance, and then it was I was just on Weston synced up, and before that it was Builder Trend. Before that it was Service Autopilot. Before that it was Google Sheets. And so we've been running 2 softwares in parallel. It does not work. Service Autopilot does not communicate with QuickBooks very well or even at all, and caused a bunch of double reporting issues back when. And so that is where, we're going to try to keep our divisions a little bit more simple to start: maintenance, enhancement, design, build, and snow. Keep everything that's contract. So even though it's irrigation, it's still under maintenance because it's a startup or a blowout. When you go to repair, that'd be an enhancement. And so simplified, but yet still far more information than we currently have. We've had a few pain points as we roll things out, but so far it's been even just what limited visibility we have in just shop work and seeing the dollars spent on labor and how many hours are actually accumulating over the course of a week just in your shop work. And it's like, okay, we're going to have to re-budget based off actually truly knowing your numbers. Because there's, I thought I knew our numbers, and then you start seeing them. It's like, oh boy, we don't actually know anything.
That Aspire has been a huge improvement for us. We thought we knew. Again, we thought we had really good software. Nothing against Service Autopilot.
Yeah.
I think part of it is always on us. I think a lot of these softwares have different modules and tons of capabilities that, if you're not an expert, we don't know how to function in them. And man, the dashboards and the things that we get now, I mean, we can see every single day by crew. We know exactly where we're performing, where we're not performing. We can make adjustments. I'm not an expert in it at all. I'm kind of hands off on that deal, but I'll jump in Matt's office sometimes and he'll start showing me these dashboards, and he's like, "Look how we did yesterday."
It's a little dials, or
it's amazing.
It's red or it's green. It's like green means good, and so we're seeing those now just kind of for the first time on mostly on sales aspects right now, and it is eye opening. And we're most excited because we're going to have a dashboard in front of our entire team.
Right.
So when they come in the morning, we have our short 5-minute team meeting. Those are all going to be up on the wall. And so they can see firsthand. It's going to try to keep it a little bit vague on just crew 1, crew 2, crew 3, but they're going to know who crew 3 is. And if crew 3 is low on efficiency, they're going to be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, you got to pick it up because we're busting our ass and you're just dragging and we're both getting paid the same here. That's not fair. So we're really excited for the visibility. I'm also really, really excited because we're going to get to reward those leaders that are doing really, really well. Obviously, that's always the sales versus production frustrations and arguments. But production has to approve sales' quotes, whether it's on maintenance or if it's on design build. So you can't say, oh, well, you didn't bid enough hours. Well,
you approved it.
Bullshit, you approved it. So I know you did, and I know it was accurate to what you said. So you got to get it done, or you're not leading well enough that we got to figure something out.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. If you were going to incentivize your team members, Leroy's getting ready to roll out. Well, you probably got it in place now, but he's rolling out a new program that
ProTiv. Yes.
Explain that just a little bit to our listeners. And
so what it is, it's called ProTiv, and basically it's a bonus program for hourly employees. And what it is so just as an example, if you have $100 or 100 hours budgeted on this project, and your average rate is just say $30 an hour, so you've got $3,000 for labor money in this deal. If the crew does it in 95 hours, you have that 5 hours that's worth $150. That's then divided among the crew. Right. The nice thing about the ProTiv is they have an app on their phone. They can look right at it, and there's this little slider, so they see, okay, we've got 100 hours. If we finish this project in say 60, they see exactly what their bonus is. So it's very transparent up front. Phenomenal program. So we've rolled it out. We're in the middle of our first project, but it's snowing right now. But there's snow on the ground.
I'm excited to see how that works for you. And I think anytime you align your employees with the company overall goals, you're going to get more performance. We've tried numerous different performance enhancement programs with our crews. Some have worked well, some haven't. The issue we always have back, I know we had a great one, we thought, in mowing. Well, they kind of started to figure out the system, and next thing you know, they're on commercial sites, they're skipping things, because if they're getting paid more to get done quicker, what are you going to do? You're going to cut a few corners, right?
Right.
So it takes some level of management, and so finding a good program that incentivizes your team members and still keeps your quality at the expectations levels is always a challenge.
And so
if you're going to pay me more to go faster, I'm going to go faster.
Right. Well, and like Sam said, though, so we put this thing in place, and in this summer when everybody's back to work, it's already done one thing. So the first one we did was very labor intensive because we're trimming a bunch of shrubs at this big place. So it's a huge bonus opportunity for them. So the guys that are working on that thing are already telling the people that aren't back to work yet. So they're already jacked for this thing that's coming in. But second of all, we also will have something, some sort of deal where, they come in the mornings for our tailgate talks, and if they've screwed something up or have to go back to this job for short change in it, there's going to be something sitting right there. So all their peers will see, these guys have to go back to this job.
You got a red card. Nobody wants a red card.
Exactly, whatever the color the card is or whatever it is. So that will kind of incentivize them to not cut those corners. We're hoping.
Do you see it? Because we looked at implementing something like that, and we talked extensively about it, and it was more or less implemented, and they met hours or they beat hours on the first one, and the second one they were over, and they wash. Do you guys have something in place that, I don't expect you're going to ask them to pay money when they're over. So I'm assuming you have the checks and balances in place to try to counteract the big ebbs and flows.
We do, and you know, one of the reasons we didn't do it last year because we have some new software, and so now we know a whole lot more of how many hours we have on everything, and it's just our sales manager's getting much more dialed in than he was, you know, previously. But there's always going to be those things, and we're very transparent and upfront with it that you are not going to make bonus on every single job. You know, we don't make the numbers we need to on every single job, so things are going to go sideways.
Yeah,
here.
because to Sam's point though, so if you go 10 hours under, but the next job goes 20 hours over, do I owe you 20 bonus hours? Because now we're flush.
No, they've been paid for those things already, so
Right.
we don't do that. But it's paid in the rears, you know, a couple of weeks. But once they've made that money, and we're confident we don't have to go back, you know, that's their money. We're not.
I think that we're moving similar. We're doing just a general profit share. And so
Right.
we gave our team, but you know, 600,000 is the goal. Any dollar over that, they get 20% of. And so that number, we really try to be transparent to a point that, you know, it's written right up there in Expo Marker. Mm-hmm. And actually this winter, it was a negative number for a little bit. And so they're like, are we going out of business? I'm like, no. That happens actually about every year. We have times throughout the month or
Had a couple tough months.
Yeah. I mean, we have not built cash balance. We're negative at the moment. And, you know, it's since obviously flipped around pretty quickly, but they get to see, you know, the things that I'm feeling that I don't say. And so it allows them to be more aligned. And I it might be a little bit too big picture for them is what I fearful of, that, you know, they don't see what small impacts they choose to make every single day add to the larger picture. And so that's one of the things that maybe I'm a little concerned about, but it was the best way that I could truly think to align them with my goals.
Well, yeah, and I think too, we just did that starting here this year. And when you have a month where you lose $45,000 and you announce that in a meeting, you can hear a pin drop in your office.
Yeah.
Trust me. You know, nobody realizes. You know, they see the big projects that come through. You know, they see the $200,000 pool that you're putting in, but they don't see when you lose $50,000 in January. And you know, they don't see those types of numbers.
I had my favorite 2-man mowing crew. Well, I made you. And it's like,
this,
okay.
yep.
First off, yes, you brought in $1,300 in revenue today. You did not make that for me. First off, you made that for the company. But second off, you did not make that. You actually make about $100 today. And then you actually start showing them fuel and insurance and and it's like they don't always realize, and why should they? But they don't always realize how much is taken out through the P&L on every single nickel and dime until there's a dime left.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on transparency. We talk a lot about profit. We talk a lot about, you know, guys, you know, you want paid more. We got to take care of equipment. We do a lot of preventative maintenance, which you said, you know, you talked about all that money, all that preventative maintenance you're doing now costs money, but it'll pay for itself later. But we are very transparent. I think we've been talking a lot about communicating with our people, talking about hours, making sure they understand. But yeah, I remember for years at Perfect Cut, I had this plaque on the wall, and every month I had our top line, right? $1 million a month. We made $1 million last month. I'm like, no, actually, we made about $12,000. I mean, so I had to really think it through because I was so excited about, again, I was in pride and ego was about this top line. We're going to be a $10 million company. We're going to be X. And the truth of it, they didn't get, and I've heard that Sam 100 times, like, I did $2,100 in applications today. I made $2,100 today. I'm like, nah, we made about $350. You know, or whatever the service line is, and you know, or they're out on a $200,000 install thinking you're getting rich. And the truth of the matter is, sometimes you've got to show some of them foremen, hey guys, here's what the materials cost, and here's how many man hours we had wrapped up in this. We netted X. It's, you know, the average landscape lawn care company, you know, if you national average is about 8%. You know, and so design build might be a little higher, but I think some of the employees think that we're just getting, you know, we're getting rich.
Yeah, well, they think that, and they don't know, like you said before, you know, they don't know those numbers. They don't know those numbers because we don't tell them typically,
Right.
You know, and when you start telling them, then they start to realize, and it makes a whole lot more sense for them. You know, we can't, you don't know what you don't know, and that's the thing. They don't know because they don't know. Nobody's ever sat them down and told them, these are our numbers. You know, we made $1,000 today on your crew, but we also spent $900, you know, on this, and this, and they just don't know those things until we tell them. So, yeah. Sam, one question we ask everybody on the Green Grind, and you should know this from the last time, but I'm hoping maybe your answers change, but I don't even remember what it was.
I don't either.
What's the best business advice you've ever been given?
So I personally don't like advice. And hear me out, I actually didn't remember this was the question, but I don't like advice. I like when people offer their experiences. I don't like when, I love my mom to death, but I don't always care for her advice. Now, if she has experiences that she can apply from her job or her life experiences, I love to listen to those. Same with if I take experience that you guys share, I love that. I don't like when somebody sitting around drinking beers and you should do this. Don't love that at all. Best advice or best experience share. Keep learning. I don't think that's what I shared last time, but keep learning. One of the things that I've really found a love in lately is reading. I read a ton of books now, and they're all business, entrepreneur, self-help, like motivation style books. Extreme Ownership is a phenomenal one.
Mm-hmm.
E-Myth is a phenomenal one. And there's parts in all those books that maybe I don't necessarily care for, but when you filter it down and you take 2 or 3 things from one of the books, there's a lot of really good information. The biggest one is, it's what a lot of people say, but working on your business and not in your business. This was the first snow event. I was out of town, and we had a previous snow event just a couple days before, and I didn't actually touch a snowplow for either event. Now, granted, my driveway is actually still not done to this moment, but it was the first time that I've actually took a step back, and I didn't run anything with production either. Like, it wasn't, I was dispatching and I was managing things. I had no clients reach out to me. They all went through the proper avenues. They were either, a few of them still have our production manager's numbers, or the account managers that now work with them. But it's taken a very, very long time to work myself out of a production manager or a technician job. Mm-hmm. And it's taken so many folks like your guys', for example, I listen to your guys' podcast, and it's taken so many times where people talk about working on the business, not in the business, to create the systems that allow you to truly run a business and not just own your own job.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I completely agree. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot of trust and courage to step back. And sometimes, I've mentioned numerous times, sometimes you got to let your guys fail. Not detrimental to your business, but let them fail a little bit. And then after the event, snow event, or any type of, and say, hey, man, Joe, I saw what you did there. You did a good job, but next time I think we could do it a little different this time. And you got to let those guys lead, because if you don't and you micromanage, you're going to be making every decision, and then they're going to be afraid to make decisions. And then when it snows and you're out of town, well, we got to call Sam. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And you got to let them make decisions. So, man, I totally agree. Sam, we appreciate you being on. We're going to be, even though you're in our market, we're going to be rooting you on. There's enough work for all of us, and I love people that are elevating the business and doing great things out there. And your brand looks great, and hopefully you invest in a new microphone soon.
New pants.
Yeah, guys. How do you find Sam? How do they, if guys want to follow you and see your, you do a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook? Where do they find you, and website? Where do they get a hold of you?
Everything's at Etch Outdoor, etchoutdoor.com, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Best way is definitely Instagram. That's where I spend way too much time, according to my girlfriend. But I love interacting with a bunch of people in our community and in the landscape specific community. That there's a lot of good people.
Yeah, jump on there and see his pants and his microphone if you guys want to.
Yeah, you do good stuff with your people, though. I like that you are talking to your people about what they do. That's what a big initiative that Perfect Gut's taken is we don't even talk about our services much anymore. We try to celebrate our people. I mean, again, I mentioned we're in the people business. Celebrate your people, make them feel good. Your customers know that if you care about your people, they're going to care about their sites, and I just think that goes a long way. So awesome, Sam. We appreciate you being in. Guys, we drop a new episode of The Green Grind every Tuesday. If you want to be a guest, or you think someone that would be a great guest, if you jump on the Ballard website, scroll down a little bit, the Green Grind logo's on there. You click on that. There's a quick questionnaire. It comes right to me. We appreciate Jobber and Hustler being a sponsor, and we'll catch you next Tuesday.